Void. The opening of the third gate echoes of the void. The third gate echoes of the void. The opening of the third gate was not heralded by grand pronouncements or cataclysmic events, but by a subtle, insidious shift in the very fabric of Adisa's awareness. It began as echoes of the void, not merely a philosophical concept, but a tangible resonance within his soul, a deep, harmonic hum that originated from beyond the veil of consensual reality. These were the reverberations of what lay on the other side of creation, the boundless, unformed potential that both precedes and threatens to reclaim all existence. Having already traversed the treacherous terrain of his own shadow, Adisa had forged himself into a unified soul, integrating the fragmented aspects of his psyche. Yet, this newfound wholeness served only to amplify his sensitivity to the pervasive influence of Metamon. The entity's whispers, once a subtle, almost imperceptible hum, had now become a resonant drumbeat within his very being, a rhythmic pulse that synchronized with his heartbeat and permeated every thought. It was the call of the deep, a summons to confront the ultimate dissolution. The world that was once familiar to Adisa, its solid forms, its predictable rhythms, now shimmered with unseen currents, subtle distortions that hinted at a reality far more porous and mutable than humanity dared acknowledge. These were the precursors to a profound unraveling, a loosening of the ties that bound reality together, an inevitable descent into fundamental chaos. His connection to the mundane grew increasingly fragile. The everyday concerns of humanity, once his focus, now seemed like distant, muffled sounds beneath a vast, dark ocean. Simultaneously, his perception expanded beyond human limits, not as a sudden flash of insight, but as an incremental, unavoidable sharpening of senses that could discern the raw energetic undercurrents of existence. He began to perceive the true nature of the shells, the clifford, that veiled the divine light, recognizing them as distortions, vast energetic traps, and the very source of the creeping entropy he was tasked to combat. The mark of Metamon was undeniable. A profound, almost alien curiosity superseded all earthly concerns, pulling him irresistibly deeper into the mysteries of the void. This was no longer a journey of discovery, but of absorption. Adisa was becoming a conduit, a living bridge between worlds. He knew, with an absolute certainty that transcended logical thought, that he had to go deeper. His path was irrevocably set. He must not merely find the unraveling, but step directly into its current. 1. Allowing its chaotic flow to wash over him. This was no longer a force to fear, but the very path he was destined to follow, a terrifying doorway through which the very fabric of understanding could be torn apart and then, perhaps, rewoven into something entirely new and coherent. With a sneaky, pleasant grin, a grim acceptance tinged with exhilaration, Adisa let the weight of hesitation slip away. There was no turning back. He had come too far for doubt. The cosmos had set this stage, and he was ready to play his part, embracing the ultimate risk, better to burn out than to fade away. The echoes of the void had claimed him, not to destroy, but to transform, demanding that he become the crucible in which new meaning would be forged from cosmic chaos. The mere phrase, "the third gate echoes of the void," became the very threshold of Adisa's deepened existence. It wasn't just a place he entered, but a profound shift within his being, marking the point where the abstract terrors of the universe began to resonate not just around him, but within him. Having meticulously traversed the treacherous terrain of his own shadow, he had diligently forged his fragmented self into a unified soul, believing he had achieved a measure of inner peace and wholeness. Yet, the subtle, insidious whispers of Metamon, once a distant hum, had now escalated into a relentless, resonant drumbeat within the very core of his awareness, a constant, insistent thrum that permeated every fiber of his being. The world he once recognized, the familiar bedrock of mundane reality, now shimmered with unsettling, consumed currents, a prelude to an imminent, terrifying unraveling. This was no longer a theoretical threat, it was a palpable, impending doom. His connection to the everyday grew irrevocably fragile, like a thread stretched taut to breaking. Simultaneously, his perception expanded beyond human limits, piercing the veil of superficiality to reveal the raw, pulsating energies beneath. The mark of Metamon upon him was no longer merely a curiosity, it was an undeniable, profound draw, a cosmic obligation that superseded all earthly concerns, pulling him ever deeper into the heart of the mystery. He was no longer simply a student learning, he was absorbing, becoming a living conduit for something unimaginably vast, inconceivably ancient, and terrifyingly real. He knew, with an absolute certainty that bypassed thought, that he had to go deeper. He knew he must find the unraveling, not with the intention of halting its inexorable flow, but to deliberately step into its powerful, accelerating current. What was once a force to be. 2. Fear had transformed into the very path to follow, a profound doorway through which the very fabric of understanding itself could be torn apart, only to be rewoven into something utterly new and indescribable. Adisa, with a quiet, almost unsettling smirk, reflected on the journey's intensity, a thought echoing in his mind, well, we've come this far. With a fleeting, pleasant grin, he consciously allowed the last vestiges of hesitation to slip away, deciding, with a chilling resolve, that he might as well keep going. The cosmos had indeed set this grand stage, and Adisa was now fully, terrifyingly, ready to play his part. As the whispers of Metamon had once suggested, it was better to burn out than to fade away. This was the trial, the unveiling of the cosmic tapestry itself.
He did not fight for vengeance, he fought to restore truth. To carve out the space the universe had tried to deny him. They tried to take everything, Valerius continued. But you remained. And in the end, you did not just survive. You completed the work. The work. The battle. The war against erasure. And now, standing in the void, facing gods who sought to test his mind, Adisa knew this was not about submission. It was about proving, not just to them, but to the cosmos itself, that he was worthy. They would not erase him. Adisa felt the chill of it, the profound truth. The fear of mediocrity wasn't about conventional failure, it was far worse. It was about the failure to live up to his own terrifying potential. It was the failure to wield the dark spark that now burned fiercely at his core, the failure to step into the unknown, the failure to prove himself before the cosmos. To shrink back from the ultimate test. To take the safe path when the universe demanded everything. Valerius's voice struck like a hammer, forging a new resolve within him. 5. Ambition does not reside in safety. The world rewards risk-takers, the ones who fear mediocrity more than they fear failure. Every great achievement, every monumental act of creation, comes from the refusal to settle. Those who are inspired by the fear of mediocrity do not hesitate. They rise. They climb. They conquer. Driven by the need to be extraordinary in a world content with average. This was the final piece of the puzzle. The terror from Azathoth wasn't just information, it was fuel. And as for your debate, blind, ignorant, and hollow, he was nothing but an imposter god. A false ruler over a reality built on deception. An idiot trying to dictate truth. Adisa would not bow. He would use the knowledge, the fear, the fire, turning terror into mastery. And when the dust settled, mediocrity would have no claim on him. The edge of ambition. Embrace the fear of mediocrity, Valeria said, his form fading as the realm of thought shimmered around Adisa. Let it push you beyond every limit, every barrier, toward heights you once thought impossible. Fear it enough, and it will become your ally. The truly ambitious are haunted by mediocrity. They feel its breath at their backs, its shadow at their heels. That fear drives them forward, faster, harder, further than logic dictates. Fear becomes their compass, guiding them toward the greatness mediocrity seeks to steal. Fear mediocrity enough, and it will never catch you. Mediocrity is blind, it sees only itself and calls it the pinnacle. 6. As Valeria's presence dissolved, the shimmering realm collapsed, pulling Adisa back toward a confrontation far more terrifying than infinite knowledge. The air did not move. It did not shift. It simply ceased to exist, leaving Adisa untethered, drifting in a void of raw dissolution. This was Azathoth, the blind idiot god, the demon sultan, the nuclear chaos at the center of all creation. No form, no thought, no intention, only madness, only the unraveling of meaning itself. The trial of unmaking. Valeria's training had led to this moment, to confront raw, unfiltered reality in all its brutal glory. To embrace what was necessary. To use the dark spark to destroy illusion, even the illusion of his own existence. You do not fight Azathoth. You do not resist. You must endure. The words of Alhazard, the mad Arab, echoed through the void. And Adisa felt it, the unraveling. His consciousness, once expanded by Yog-Sothoth, now began to dissolve. His memories, his identity, his very essence as Adisa. It scattered, breaking into fragments so small they barely existed. This was not death, not destruction, but dissolution. Ceasing to be. The ultimate mediocrity was not failure, it was annihilation. To become a nameless speck in the primordial chaos, stripped of all distinction. But in that abyss, in that surrender to nothingness, he found strength. 7. The dark spark, forged through Valeria's ruthless teachings and now sharpened by the fear of mediocrity, refused to be extinguished. It did not fight the dissolution, it endured it. It became the silence within the scream, the stillness within chaos. Adisa did not break because he had learned to see meaning in meaninglessness, to find order within disorder. His inner eye, honed by Valeria's brutal pragmatism, now perceived the terrifying structure beneath even chaos itself. He was not gone. He was evolving. The anomaly in chaos. The echoes of Valeria's words, now infused with the raw, maddening reality of Azathoth's primal chaos, resonated within Adisa's dissolving consciousness. Fear it enough, and it becomes your ally. The truly ambitious are haunted by mediocrity. They feel its breath at their backs, its shadow at their heels. That fear drives them forward, faster, harder, beyond limits they once thought impossible. Fear becomes their compass, guiding them toward the greatness that mediocrity seeks to steal. Fear mediocrity enough, and it will never catch you. Mediocrity is blind, it looks only at itself and calls it the pinnacle of idiots. Adisa didn't merely endure Azathoth, he integrated it. The unmaking was not his end. It was his reforging. By embracing non-existence, he transcended the need for existence. By surrendering to oblivion, he became unbound. By dissolving into the primordial chaos, he did what no mortal mind had ever done, he became an anomaly within the heart of disorder. Extraordinary in the face of annihilation. 8. This was no survival. This was mastery. The reckoning of the unforgiving law. Adisa Ogunwell had lived in London, but he had survived it, trapped behind what some called enemy lines, navigating a world that judged him not for his actions, but for his existence. Discrimination, projection, fear, none of it belonged to him, yet all of it had been forced upon him. Their guilt was theirs to bear. Their fear was theirs to confess. And now, as the final confrontation loomed, there would be no escaping judgment. Either they would acknowledge their transgressions, seek atonement, and break the cycle, or they would be consumed by their own deception. Through the void, Metamon emerged not as an observer, but as the executioner of knowledge's law. 9. The unforgiving law of knowledge. Seek without respect, and you shall be consumed by what you uncover. Attempt to wield wisdom without balance, and it will turn against you. Those who approach knowledge with arrogance will find themselves servants to it rather than masters. Metamon was no longer passive. He had become the final test, the force that determined whether one would rise or perish beneath the weight of the truth. He was neither savior nor destroyer. He was the gatekeeper, ensuring that humanity's evolution would be dictated not by greed, but by understanding. And for those who sought to wield knowledge without honor, there would be no mercy. The guardian holder ascends. Adisa Ogomwal emerged from the heart of Ascent, not merely alive, but terrifyingly transformed. He was no longer just a man, he was a vessel forged in cosmic truth and tempered in the abyss of primordial chaos. The dark spark, once a whisper of potential, had become an inferno of sheer will, burning away every illusion, every limitation. He had integrated the fear of mediocrity, wielding it not as a burden, but as a weapon, a force that propelled him beyond mortality's grasp. Each trial had carved him into something more. Nyarlathotep had taught him to pierce external illusions. Yog-Sothoth had granted absolute truth and internal expansion. Ascent had taught him the brutal lesson of enduring non-existence itself. But it was Lord Valerius's ruthless doctrine, the refinement of his inner eye, the embrace of his dark spark, that had sealed his transformation. Adisa had not just survived these cosmic horrors, he had transcended them. 10. Now, armed with sharpened perception and an unbreakable will, only one question remained: what further horrors, what ultimate revelations, what final confrontations awaited the guardian holder on this relentless path? Because for Adisa, the battle was never just against the old ones. It was against the ultimate mediocrity of oblivion itself. And that he was now terrifyingly equipped to win. 11. Page 11 of 11.